So how do you fill a bucket that's already full? Yeah, you can top it off. Perhaps you can even rearrange the contents to fit in just a little more. Maybe if the sides are pliable, you can stretch the container to make more room. But eventually there's a tipping point. There's a point where no more can fit. There's a point when you are beyond capacity. We don't like to acknowledge our limitedness. We always seem to believe that we can fit in more. There is more to be had, but there really is a limit. There is a place called full. Trust me, I've been known to overflow grocery carts, carry more than seems humanly possible or advised, shoved so much garbage in our green Brimfield garbage bags that I then cannot drag them to the street. I have double booked my calendar and just plain planned more than is possible to do in a day. And I know I'm not alone in this. You would think we would have all learned by now. Full is full, and our version of full is often over full. The sad part about this full, or our over full position, is that we seem to applaud it. We almost seem to seek it out like it's a prize. We don't, but perhaps we should, see it as a bit of a sickness, an addiction that shows up not just in our consumption of things, but also in the way we tend to engage in life. It lays out our desire and hope to be immortal, which we're not. The problem with this over full life is then when something is too full, it also simultaneously cannot receive more. We like to think of full as a positive status, right? Like a full tank of gas means that you can drive. A full stomach means that you can be content. But there's also a negative side to being full. To be full is to have no more room, no available space. We are at capacity, perhaps, and most likely even beyond capacity. Think of the story of Mary and Joseph in Bethlehem. Joseph knocking on each of the doors in Bethlehem. No room, no room, no room. No room for the Messiah to be born. I wonder on your calendars, if the Messiah asked to have a cup of coffee, when would be your earliest convenience? What if you didn't know it was the Messiah who was the one who was asking? And so I wonder what would happen if we stopped. What would happen if we refused to try to fill in every crack and crevice? What if we allowed some space and purposely even made space? What if we made sure that perpetually there was enough room? See, the other day I was offering an opening devotional to some of my colleagues, and it was focused on breath, slowing down to breathe, to even notice that we do that. Sometimes we're moving so fast, we forget. We focused on just that simple in and out, as we often do here during worship, and the lavish enoughness that sometimes we are able to touch when we recognize just that in and out. And after we finished the opening devotional, we had a discussion about the validity of taking the time to focus on our breath. Was this just a first world privileged thing? In a world with so much going on, do we have the right, should we dare to focus on our breath when the world seems like it's on fire? Is our focusing on our breath just a way to busy and buffer ourselves again from the world's troubles? And I think it certainly could be used for that if that's all you did. But also to slow, to take the time to breathe in and out, to retreat as Jesus does throughout his ministry, has impact on ourselves and thereby on our families and our communities and the world. To make that space to stop and breathe slows the chaotic, moving world and gives us the balance to enter into our next encounter, whatever it might be. And to enter it with grace and spacious enough that we might be able to deal with whatever comes at us. To make space allows God to work within us and for us to be quiet and calm enough to notice and maybe work alongside God at the same time. To make space even means if an urgent need arises, we have enough space and resources to respond to it. This Lent, part of our practice will be to make some more purposeful space through the act of fasting. Not per se fasting in the traditional sense as in abstaining from food, but through a series of acts that interrupt our status quo and, God willing, shake things up and draw our attention to a new possible order. As fasting from food makes our stomachs empty, fasting from other things can make space in our lives, in our minds, in our daily schedules. So I invite you, when you leave, there are prayers at the back by both doors and over here called the prayer for letting go that we will say later, that you can bring home and read throughout this Lent. And then on the back there are practices of fasting that we will engage in over the next 6 weeks. Genesis 1 says that we are the image bearers of God. And yet too often one would really have to squint to see the resemblance. So let us, over this period of Lent, focus on remembering and remembering that truth, making space within ourselves such that once again we can be that image bearer, and that God may not only be seen by us, but through us. Amen.